So what about the board games? Do you remember any specific hands you played?
I had an interesting hand with John Jawanda on day 3. This is another. I think after day 2, I ended up at a table. I was sitting like across from Mike Matisow, and he had a great last round in day 2, and I had a terrible last round. I'd gone from maybe 400,000 down to about 250, and Mike had gone from about, I don't know, I think 70 or 80,000 up to like 400 in the last hour. That's what Raz does sometimes. Mike won every hand at our table.
Really?
And so anyway, so we wished each other good luck, and at this point there was like 50 people left. So I went home, and then so now Mike wakes me up at 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning, calls my cell phone, and
you answered?
I answered, and he starts talking about who's at our table tomorrow and how we got the worst table ever, and my wife said hi from the other room. I mean, he was ranting pretty good. So it turns out when I come in the next day, we have Mike, Alan Cunningham, John Jawanda, Robert Mizraki, David Skolansky, and it was just another nightmare table.
Not a soft table.
No. And we were going to be there for probably half of the day on day 3. So I played a stud hand with Jawanda. And it's really the only big pot I played at this table before it broke, and it wasn't even that big. But it was at this point it was real key to my continuing in the tournament. Yeah. I hadn't started out very well. I had no cards for like the first hour, and I started out below average anyway. So I was getting kind of short. So any big hand I played was going to be real key. So we played a stud hand where John had raised in late position with Queen up, and I think I had the bring in with like the 2 of clubs up, and I had 9s in the hole. And I mean, I know I said I want to start with the best hand, but I mean, this looked like a spot where I just had to have the best hand. I mean, I could have got unlucky and John had something, but he's going to raise there with everything because he's supposed to, and because I got the bring in, and I'm a tight player, so he's going to raise me with just about everything there, and he did. And so I re-raised him with my pocket 9s, and then he raised it back again. So he already had a big pot. And at this point, obviously, when he raises it back again, I don't like my hand so much, but I'm not going anywhere. I mean, if he's got it, he's got it.
You've got to see at least
there's a range of hands he could still have here that I can beat. He might even have a pair in the hole smaller than 9s. I'm not sure. So I called him, and anyway, so he takes the lead throughout the hand, and he bets, and I call, and he bets, and I call, and he bets. So now we get to 6th Street. On 6th Street, I caught a king, and my board shows King Queen 10. With, I think I'm showing 3 clubs.
Okay.
So I caught like the king of clubs on 6th Street, and I got 2 9s in the hole with the 9 of clubs. So if I don't have the best hand at this point, John's kind of caught Bragg all the way. So if I don't have the best hand at this point, I'm at least drawing at it. I mean, I've got a straight draw, I've got overcards that are live. Yeah. I can make 2 pair and probably win the pot, and I can make a flush and certainly win the pot with that. So now I'm first to act on 6th Street, so I bet into him. And he calls pretty quickly. So it looked like I might have made a flush, but he wasn't buying that, obviously. So now I'm sort of resigned to the fact that, okay, he does have the 2 queens, and he's just paying me off or hoping I don't have it. So I catch my river, and I look at it, and it's like a 8 of hearts or something, completely meaningless. And so now I check, because I figure if John calls me on 6th Street, with 2 queens, he's calling me on the river with 2 queens, and just hoping I don't have him beat. And now John checks behind me, and the pot's real big. I mean, there's more chips in the pot than there are left in my stack, so it's a pretty key hand for me. John had quite a few chips, so I don't think it was as big to him. So I say, I got 1 pair, and John says, me too. And the way he said it, it's not 2 queens. So at that point, I was pretty sure I was going to win the pot. So I won that, and that gave me a real boost early on day 3. And after that, I was in reasonable shape most of the day. But then
Raz hit
I lost. Yeah, Raz hit again. No, actually, I think I lost a pretty big Omaha 8 or better pot to Kenny Tran, who had a ton of chips. And this was with like maybe 4 tables left. And after that hand, we're playing. I think we're playing like 20 and 40,000 limit. So the blinds are 10 and 20,000. After that hand, I had like that much left.
Wow. What was that? What happened in that hand?
This hand was, it wasn't even that big a hand. It was just that we were playing so high, and I hadn't won a hand for a while.
Yeah, once the blinds are up, it's understandable.
But at the end of it, I was left with like 20,000 in chips. And we started the tournament with 100,000, and now
so you had a blind.
About 15% of the field is all that's left. So I had my blind, and I put it in for my blind, and I think I needed to make a low hand on the river to get a quarter of the pot.
Okay.
Which I did. So I think I broke even on that hand, and then somehow, about 2 hours later, after never going broke in all of these all-in confrontations, I think I ran it up to about that.
Okay.
So now I'd gone from basically a critically short stack to one of the average stacks in the tournament. I ran up to like 800,000. And that just kind of shows you that,
How'd you do that so quickly?
I mean, when you're playing these tournaments and you're playing such high limits, it doesn't take much. You string a little something together at any point, and all of a sudden you can be a factor. So I ran that up, and I was pretty optimistic at this point for the first time in quite a while.
Days.
I mean, it looked like I was going to bust out at 3 tables, 4 tables, and now all of a sudden we're in the money. There's like maybe 13, 14 people left, and I got a real shot to win it. So I was feeling pretty good about things. Kind of my downfall happened in stud 8 or better. I played a big pot with Freddie Deeb, and that was I think after that hand I went from about 800,000 to maybe 350 in one pot. I'd started the hand with the hand you want in stud 8 or better, or one of them anyway. I had pocket aces with a small card up, and Freddie had a small card up as well. He had to bring in, and I'd raised and he called, and I caught another good card on 4th Street. So now I have 3 low cards and 2 aces, and Freddie caught a jack, and I bet, and Freddie called, and I got a little unlucky in that if one of my aces was up, almost for sure he was going to fold there. But the fact that I just had 2 low cards,
he thought he could still go for the high.
Right. So he's not reading me for such a powerful hand. But I'm pretty sure if my aces were split instead of both in the hole,
he would have given you some respect.
I think he would have given it up right on 4th Street. So I got a little unlucky there. But anyway, so he kept coming, and then I caught a bad card on 5th Street. And so did he, but he wasn't going anywhere. And on 6th Street, he caught a jack to make open jacks. And at this point, I was pretty sure his 5th Street card had paired him as well, and it had, as it turned out. So he had jacks and 5s, and I had 2 aces, and of course I missed on the end, and that was the end of it. So I lost a lot of chips there. And then I continued to struggle for the next hour or so. I was down, again, I was down to a pretty critical level now, and where I had to really pick my spot to go, to gamble or go broke or to double up. Yeah, no, this is on day 4.
Day 4, okay.
Yeah, and when I was really short, I had what I think was kind of an interesting decision on a Raz hand, and this is actually right before I went broke. I think there's 11 people left in the tournament, and I picked up a hand that when you're a short stack, you would just love to see this hand, and I threw it away. And I've talked to a lot of people about this hand since it happened, and I've only had a couple people agree with me, and I don't think I'm going to be convinced that I made a mistake. Most people thought, how can you throw this hand away? You got no chips. What happened was, at this point I have enough antes left in my stack to look at about 15 hands. So I was going to have to find one of the next 15 hands to play, or basically ante myself out of the tournament. Right.
Your 15th
and I picked up 3, 5, 6, which in Raz you're trying to make ace 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the best hand. And generally, anytime you get 3 cards to a 7, you have a really nice starting hand, and 3 cards to an 8's okay sometimes. And here I picked up 3 cards to a 6, and I'm on fumes, and I got to do something. So how can I not play this hand? So I'll tell you how I was able to fold this. John Hanson had raised. He was sitting to my immediate right. He was first to act, and he had an ace up. Okay, so that in itself does not mean everything. But John was playing really solid. He'd been really short earlier, kind of like I was now, and he managed to build it all the way up to well over $1 million. And he wasn't really getting out of line much, and he certainly wasn't going to get out of line in this pot because he was first to act. There's 6 of us at the table, and behind me, I'm showing my low card. Behind me, there's 4 more low cards, and my hand was 3, 5, 6, and out on the board there was an ace, a deuce, a 5, a 4, and I think a 7. So basically, literally, every one of the cards that I would have liked to have caught was out there. That doesn't mean there weren't more in the deck, but it means I was drawing a lot slimmer than I would have been normally. And so I put that together with the fact that John just can't be bluffing here. He has to have a hand. And I decided to wait. And I passed on this hand. And that kind of goes along with, tournament philosophy that, which I know it applies a lot to No Limit, but it definitely applies to a case in which I'm more or less committing myself, and that is that you want to be the raiser. You want to be the first one into the pot when you're getting short. You want to put the pressure on the other player to call you, and basically, I only had one way to win this pot. If I played, I had to end up with a better hand than John, and that was the only way I was going to win it. And I'm not saying that was unlikely. Yeah.
But with all the low cards out,
and with him raising that spot, maybe we were 50-50. So I was 50% to go broke on this hand. However, if I could wait and find a spot where I was the raiser and maybe nobody else could call, at that point the antes were so high that I'm adding a lot to my stack without really the risk of going broke. And if I do get called, I can still win there too. But I really wanted to be the guy that was raising. I didn't want to be the guy that was calling off my last chips, if I could help it. And, honestly, if the rest of these low cards weren't out, I was going to play. But I decided to wait and see if I could find a better spot. So I talked to...
Okay, what did other people say?
I probably talked to like 30 other players about this. And nearly all of them think I'm nuts. And
who agrees with you? Anyone?
Daniel Negreanu agreed with me for the same reasons I kind of said about waiting to be the first one in and the live cards that he had and the fact that John had to have a hand. So he agreed with me, and a couple of my other friends agreed with me, but that was about it. And I still think I'm right. I mean, I don't think I'm going to change my mind on it, so I'm comfortable with my decision. As it turned out, I found a good hand to go all in with. About 2 or 3 hands later, I picked up like 2, 3, 4, and I went broke. But, that's the way it goes.
So you went broke with 2, 3, 4. You went out in 11th place, which is still a really good finish in the event. Did you think that you were going to make it further, or did you, what was going through your mind on that last day of play, day 4?
I thought I was going to go broke on day 3 when I got real short. It looked like I was done. And so the fact that I survived that was a kind of a miracle. But once I survived that and built up my chips, I really thought I was going to go a lot further than I did. So, it was kind of mixed feelings at the end. I probably shouldn't even have made the money, and I did. So, that's something.
To make it through that field, the $50,000
something to be taken away from it. But once I had chips, I thought I should have done better, and I didn't really regret anything I did. But I was a little disappointed with how it turned out.
Well, congratulations on your finish. It's really commendable to make it through the horse field at the World Series. That's just really great. Thanks so much for being here, Mark.
Thanks, Lizzie.
This is Lizzie Harrison with Mark Gregorich for Card Player TV.